I'm here again today with my SawStop 10-inch professional cabinet saw, and I want to talk today about the guards for the blades and what types of guards there are and how to install them and take them out, and of what use they are. I apologize for this plumbing being in front of your view, but you'll see in a little while why I have it up like it is and what it's for. So to begin with, a basic configuration of this saw is to have a 10-inch blade and a riving knife. Now, a riving knife sits behind the blade and it's contoured very close to the blade. And the idea is as follows. As you rip a board, or even crosscut for that matter, but especially when you rip a board, the board can have internal forces twist on it so that the pieces of the board can come back together that have been separated by the blade and actually bind on the blade, and that can kick that piece of wood back into you, into your face, into your chest, whatever. So what you have to do is make sure that those two pieces of the board, as they exit the blade, do not come back together, at least not close to the blade where they could pinch on the blade and cause a kickback situation. So as a minimum, you want a riving knife on your blade. But the blade is still exposed and it could still touch your flesh or touch unwanted objects, even push sticks, etc. could go into the blade fairly easily. So we want to be cautious about that. So let me show you some blade guards, a couple of blade guards, and how you install them and take them out. First thing you do is remove this zero clearance insert, and it's done with this metal piece and a finger hole here. You just lift that up, which unlocks it, and pull it out as you just saw me do. Here, let me do that again. So it's flat, put your finger in here, lift up that lock, and then pull it out. There is a silver metal lever that you turn clockwise about 90 or 100 degrees clockwise, and then this riving knife comes out. It's held in place by pins that go through those holes, and those pins are activated and it gets squeezed when you engage that lever. So let's set the riving knife aside and let's look at how we would put a standard blade guard. This is a blade guard that comes with the saw, with the SawStop saw. And it has these plastic pieces that fit around the blade, and then this metal piece, which is a riving knife actually, but it's a much larger piece. So let's install this just in the same place as we put the riving knife and turn that lever counterclockwise. And then I will reinstall this zero clearance insert. And now I have some protection where the blade is covered by these plastic pieces that if something pushes in, it's not going to hit the blade, it's going to hit the plastic piece. Also, this particular one has these anti-kickback pawls. That's these two black lever-like looking things that have points. And this lays down on the surface of the wood. So as you pass a piece of wood through this blade, you now have this such that if you pull on the blade, it engages those sharp points, and that will stop the board from coming back, from kicking back. So those are called anti-kickback pawls. So let's move to a different and slightly more complex blade guard. This one is going to fit in with our dust collection system. because with the blade open like this, even with this in front of it, materials and sawdust come out of the blade. Oh, I should demonstrate that this works just fine as you lower and raise the blade, because these are flexible and they move with the blade. So now we want to engage some extra dust collection. So let's look at how that happens. Let's take the zero clearance insert out again, and let's remove this particular blade guard. Set it aside. And instead we're going to install a more complex blade guard, and it has similarities to the one we were just looking at, but it also has a path for dust to come up through this loop and come back to this port right here. So it'll be apparent in a minute what good that does us. So we will install this as we did the other one. We will put the zero clearance insert in as we did with the other one. This one provides even more coverage of the blade. You'll notice the entire blade is covered by this particular blade guard. And that's so that a vacuum can be created in here. And that's hence the reason for this plumbing here. So I connect that, and now this goes down to my vacuum port. And so my dust collection vacuum is pulling not only out of the cabinet of the saw, but also across this and out of the enclosure here that's around the blade. And when I use this, you notice that the wood lifts these, but there's always a complete enclosure so that the vacuum can continue to work and pull that out. And this one also has anti-kickback pulls, so that if it should try to kick back, that will stop that from happening. Now this is not an original part of the saw. You have to buy this as an added extra, and it costs a couple of $100 for all this plumbing and the guard, which you can get as an accessory when you buy a SawStop table saw. So once again, looking at the SawStop 10-inch professional cabinet saw, I've shown you various attachments to help protect you around the blade. The most simple one was a riving knife. And then we showed you and demonstrated the basic blade guard that comes with the table saw. This is not an added accessory, this comes standard. And then I showed you the dust collection saw blade guard, and the vacuum hoses that attach that. So with all of these things, they make the saw safer, and they make the atmosphere safer if you happen to have this one, because it pulls more of the dust out of the air that you would get if you didn't have that kind of coverage. If you like what you saw, please like the video and subscribe, and that way we'll be able to keep in contact with you and let you know about future content.